Welcome everybody to TNM Unplugged. I'm so happy to see you all. Welcome, welcome. You're showing up consistently week after week on this podcast, giving us a good feedback. Thank you so much for comments and likes and shares, and also your ability to digest this content and do something with it, because the whole purpose of this podcast is to elevate your heart, to elevate your soul, and to elevate your mind to the next level of itself, to tap into this amazing evolutionary process we are all in right now. This is an important time on planet Earth. We are living through the unprecedented times, and we need to love, support, take care of each other, and really become that best possible version of ourselves. And in this podcast, we're going to talk about what does it mean to become the best possible version as a man. What is manhood? What is the embodied man? What do we need to do as men nowadays to be able to show up throughout this transition, to be able to activate ourselves, to be able to transform ourselves, to really show up in our life, in our business. A lot of the business leaders do listen to this podcast as well, and we talk about leadership as an energy that is extremely important nowadays. How to lead yourself, how to lead your teams, how to show up and lead your organizations, how to move through the strategies, how to be with the ambiguity of life and ambiguity of business. And for all of this, it's extremely important that we go back to ourselves, to connect to our man energy, to our masculine energy, what we know works, and then show up in our life. And today with me, it's Alex Mischka. He is wonderful coach, activated starseed. This is how I call this younger generation of amazing people who are showing up as way showers, coaches, personal development teachers. He has been coaching sexuality, sensuality, relationships for some times. He has done a deep research into masculinity as well. And nowadays, part of his passion is supporting men around the world to become the best possible version of themselves. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Zoran. It is always a pleasure and a wonder to see you again. So thank you for the invitation.
So let's dive into it. What do we need to do as men nowadays to become the best possible version of ourselves?
The list is long. But we're doing okay. It's going to be a-okay. The field of men's work is my deep passion at the moment. And for the last 5 years, I've had the honor and the privilege of working with some incredible men, incredible guides and teachers, mentors. And there is this new paradigm of what is the modern man. And amidst our highly technological and information-based age, and the complete lack of rites of passage for the men and for the masculine, I think men's work has now been more important than ever. And it is picking up. It's picking up in conscious communities. It's picking up in cities all over the world. And men are learning how to hold themselves, express themselves, and be with other men, and then take that back to their relationships. And so the field, I think, of embodied masculinity is very close to my heart. And specifically, how we are able to regulate our nervous systems, hold a depth of presence, and be elegant and loving leaders in our missions, our purpose, and also in our relationships.
So let's start from the beginning, because it really stuck to me when you said rite of passage. For people who are not aware of what is that for men, how would you describe that, and what is that for?
Yeah, great question. The rites of passage in our antiquity and in tribal culture was about helping a boy move from boyhood to manhood. And it usually involved a great deal of pain and physical endurance. And we don't have anything like that embedded in our culture at the moment. It's been wiped away from it. And so a lot of the principles of initiation for men now are for a man to go to his edge, both physically, mentally, emotionally. And in that fire, of being cooked within that fire, he gains a new sense of perspective and a new sense of strength and courage. And that tends to galvanize a part of him to be able to show up in the world more fully. I mean, before it used to be about the tribe welcoming the boy back as a man and placing on him the mantle of responsibility that now you are a man. You've been through the fire. And the beauty of men's work now is helping men find their own rites of passage in smaller micro moments of learning to be with discomfort, learning to be with intensity, learning to be with the intensity of his emotions, to the intensity of the phenomena of life coming at him, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's in the stresses of life, and how to remain stable, grounded, calm, and present so that he can then make better choices.
Stable, calm, grounded, and present to be able to make better choices.
Yeah.
So what happens if we don't have the rite of passages? What happens to a masculine? Let's say that I'm a boy and I'm now 13 or 14 and I'm not brought up in a tribe in Africa that still honors that tradition and gets me to really initiate myself through the pain, to this passage, and I don't do it. And I'm part of the Western culture. What will happen to me in my journey?
Yeah, I mean, well, if we look at the schooling system, some kids manage and can form healthy relationships and find a sense of self-worth, and some kids don't. And if you look at the current state of play in our world, I mean, how many distractions are there with technology, things that strip men of their power? Personally, I believe there is an orchestrated agenda to weaken the masculine and to weaken men. Especially in the realm of sexuality, where we have porn available freely, which is obviously completely distorting our view of femininity and masculinity and what sex actually is. But even more important than that, are men who are unable to form a loving relationship with their genitals and with their ejaculation patterns. So a huge part of men's work is helping a man with his sexual conduct, how to hold on to his energy and how to express it and use it and wield it in a way that's healthy and loving for himself, for others.
And how can we express our sexual energy in the way that is healthy and loving and leaderful? What is the way into that? I mean, without getting into the complete body of work, what would you say on that?
I think we have a tremendous amount of energy stored up inside of us. And the most refined substance we make is our seminal fluid. Holding on to that and learning how to keep it in the system without wanting to release it all the time is part of this rite of passage. It's part of this intensity exercise or intensity practice, because that buildup creates a lot of energy, and there is a real desire to release it so that we can feel free for a minute. It's a deep part of the masculine is wanting freedom from demand, freedom from pressure, freedom to just be. Resting in consciousness or just resting, whether it's on the sofa watching the TV or up on the mountain. We desire freedom. But if we have to earn that freedom, and that the price of earning that freedom comes at mastering our own bodily functions and reactions and impulses. So I think helping a man regain his sexual sovereignty is about helping him understand his arousal and hormonal patterns and how his genitals work.
It's an education, basically, to understand the physiology and the impulses and patterns and understanding what happens when you have urges and how do you manage that energy. Because a lot of the men that I coach and talk to, they would say, I don't have any choice. I mean, I am so full of that energy. What do I do with that? What do I do with that energy at this moment in time? It's driving them instead of them being in relationship with that energy. What would you say to that? What happens, and how can we as men be able to be in relationship with that differently?
Yeah, it's great. Really good question. And I'm aware that every man is different. He has his own quantity or quality of connection, this force inside of him. And a lot of this is to do with testosterone. Protecting our testosterone, I think, is one of the fundamental things that we have to master at the moment, because again, we're becoming weaker as men. We're becoming more domesticated, sitting, hunched, constant distraction, constant dopamine hits, and also just living a domesticated life. We don't have as much sun on our skin. We don't have as much physical trials and tribulations, and so we have to create it for ourselves. But to answer your question more clearly, like anything that is a challenge in the beginning, we don't want to push so far that we end up injuring ourselves. So we take small, gradual steps towards the capacity of energy that we can hold in ourselves. So I always encourage the men I work with to just gently ease into a new rhythm. Try going for a week without spilling your seed. Then try for 2 weeks, build up to 3, then build up to 4, and just feel into what feels right for you. In the same way our body tells us what food we should be eating, sometimes if we can listen, our body will also tell us what needs to be released when. And it takes a subtle, fine-grained listening to understand that.
Exactly. Being in relationship with your body, as you said, gradually, softly, gently, really understanding yourself, being in relation, listening to your body in a way, trusting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The body is the guru, right? It just knows. And it's learning to listen to its subtle messages, I think.
So that's an important part of, becoming that best possible version, embodied man, understanding your sexuality, how does it function, understanding the physiology. And then for me, the important piece here is the emotions, because a lot of men, still are in the space of not understanding their emotions, suppressing how they really feel, and not allowing, the feeling to be expressed because it's somehow perceived as a sign of weakness. It's somehow perceived as a sign of don't be too emotional. It starts with the programming on a early age. The boys don't cry. Get up and shake yourself. Don't show your emotions. There's all this suppression of emotions. So I'm curious about what can we do, first of all, to be in relationship with our emotions, and how can we mature emotionally so that we can then share, live, feel our emotions as well.
Yeah, beautiful point. This is a huge, I think probably one of the main pillars of men's work is helping men understand that it's okay to share and to feel. And the beauty of brotherhood is being able to feel and express everything you're feeling with other men and understand that it's acceptable. That tends to soften a man's the blocks or the bridges in a man's psyche where he can overcome that conditioning of like, actually, it's okay to feel. It's okay to cry in front of a group of men. It's okay to feel intense rage and eat and smash things. And the deeper part of the work is assisting men with their containership, their ability to contain and lead their emotions. So nervous system resilience and sensitivity to what's there. The ability to express it and then come back to a place of stillness, calm, and stability, to allow what needs to move through him to move through him. Because if it just builds up, it's going to build up and build up and build up, and then it's going to come out really awkward. Most likely in his relationship with a primary partner.
Yeah.
And that's when the trouble comes. And that's the calling that a lot of women are asking for now, is for the men that they're with to be more emotionally intelligent within the relationship so that they can entrust them more. Because when we come undone, when we get triggered and it all comes flying out, it can be terrifying, and it can be very hard to trust that if it's consistently happening.
Yeah. And it can happen like aggression, violence, screaming, shouting, withdrawal, hiding, all different range of behaviors that will come out of it, right?
Yes, absolutely. The inner child has got a whole range.
Yeah, the inner child has a whole range of that. So strong, content, calm, and being in relationship and leading emotions, right? Feeling them and then leading them.
Yes, absolutely. And feeling them and leading them in a way that is embodied and direct and honest for yourself, and then bringing it in a way that's intelligent into the partnership. It's not about hiding things or suppressing them. So to appear strong to your partner, it's like how to intelligently engage with them.
Yeah. For the people who don't understand the terminology of embodiment, so when you say, embodying the emotion, what do you actually mean? For people who really want to intellectually understand that concept to be able to do it, how would you define that?
The notion of embodied, it's a very popular word now, to be embodied.
Yeah, to be embodied, exactly. Be embodied. And, I hear it a lot. And sometimes people ask me, but what do you mean embody? I mean, I really want to be that, but I don't really get it. So that's why I'm asking you, in your definition, how would you free fall, and what would you say embodiment is?
It's the ability to feel everything that is moving through you in your actual body and have some jurisdiction and connection and ability to express with it. So it's not the idea, like, for instance, take tears or take anger. It's okay to express all those feelings. It's okay to cry. It's okay to grieve. Usually behind most anger that men feel is a deep grief. and it's related to the the primary wounds of inadequacy that we all feel on some level. But to become embodied is to have a relationship with the energy moving through your body, and to express that regularly in ways that allow what is happening to really happen. So movement, breath, dance, shaking, stillness, certain poses where you're actually engaging the energy within you and allowing it to move through the body's intelligence. That to me is the definition of the body.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for that, because this is one of this popular term in the personal development industry. Everybody wants to be embodied meditation, embodied yoga, embodied manhood, embodied presence, embodied. So we really want to get into body, but sometimes we don't know what it means. So being able to feel that in your body, being able to be in relationship with the movement, allowing yourself enough space, times, and silence to really ask yourself, how do I really feel about it? And then noticing and observing the motion, the movement inside of your body. It's what we relate to as embodiment. So you talked about in the life that we had recorded before about nervous system activation, when it comes to men, and, how we react versus respond to life. So this reaction of overstimulation of the nervous system, and then response of self-regulation of the nervous system. Tell me a little bit more about that. So what is your take on that, and how would you get people to be in relationship to their nervous system, and then being able to be responsive to their life?
Yeah, beautiful. I'm so grateful to the male teachers that handed this knowledge down to me, and just working with it on and off throughout the years, and then really committing to it in the last few years. And it's just integral to all of this work is the idea of that we are essentially living inside our bodies is the accumulation of years and years and years and years of experience, of letdown, of pain, of hurt, of conditioning, of unmet needs, and it's all locked inside the body. And we essentially take on the form or the shape of our deepest fears a lot of the time, or our anxiety. It's all locked within the cells, within the muscles, and our process and our practice is about slowly unlocking that and informing a new way of being through practice, through regular practice of like expansion and opening poses, or breathwork patterns, or experiences where we're actually moving, and we're actually making sound, and we're actually holding certain amounts of energy within our bodies, whether it's through qigong or breathwork or yoga. And these practices re-inform the nervous system and install a new way of being. Essentially, you're installing new levels of stillness and calm, and your ability to hold intensity, I think, is one of the primary missions for men, is the ability to hold intensity, which relates back to the rites of passage, peace.
Yeah, exactly. When we were put in a situation to hold the intensity, and that was part of our initiation, and therefore we remember that that pattern, and then we can hold the intensity. And we all know that for some reason life is extremely intense right now. Whenever I talk to people in podcasts or friends or in coaching and ask them, how are you? Most of the people say, it's so intense. They would say, literally, it's so intense right now. And I have been hearing that for such a long time. It's so intense right now. It's really intense. So that means that we really need to be in relationship with our ability to hold that intensity. So what is needed for me, for you, to be able to hold the intensity in a good way?
Yeah. It's, I think, a constant daily ritual. I don't like the word routine. It sounds too prosaic, but a ritual, something that is precious to you for small moments during the day, where you get to check in with yourself and ask yourself, one, how am I feeling, and what needs to move through me? Do I need to scream and shout out in a forest if you live near a forest? Do I need to go and do some weights so I can just really tune into my primality and feel some strength within me? What does the moment need? And having a palette of choices to get out of this thing. We want to cut the head off in these times. There's too much to think about. There's just
too much to think about. I love it.
And that's the beauty of getting into your body, is you're getting out of your cerebral circuits into your chest, your heart, your lower regions, your hips, your feet, everything. And it's for those moments we're not thinking about what has to be done.
Yeah. So being able to have the rituals, and I for myself realized in the recent years more and more ritualistic I became around asking myself, what do I need to do to be able to be in balance nowadays? And asking same of my clients, what do you need today to be able to be present to that intensity? What is the practice out of the different practices that you have in your life that would really enable you to be there? It's an important one, and then really showing up for that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to throw the question back at you. You've built this huge business, and you have constantly layered and upscaled. How have you dealt with the intensity of building and growing in such a way?
Yeah. For me, the most important practice that I practice throughout the year, it's energy work. It's my ability to be in relationship with everything that I do through observing the energy behind the things that I was doing. So basically, what is the source of everything that is going on right now?
Yeah.
And being in relationship with that and perceiving the energy as the movement, like the emotion, and allowing that energy to go through my body as fluid as possible and not to hold on to anything at this moment in time. So it's like breath, right? It's like breathing and moving. It's like waves in the water, allowing them to come and go, and then really practicing that and not holding on to anything. I think the important thing is not holding on to anything.
That's
Just
it.
letting go, allowing.
That's my real struggle. My shadow is the shadow of control. And I always had to this thing that comes in and wants me to force and push and control and exert that, that tension into the moment. And I'm really having to learn these days is when my shadow of control is appearing to step back and either surrender a little bit or soften.
Yeah, surrender and soften and understand. I mean, for me, the breakthrough moment was when I understood that the God, universe, prime creator, whatever terminology we use nowadays, I love using God and I love using prime creator. It's kind, compassionate, and loving.
Yes.
And knowing that it has my back, knowing that my inner child that is wounded in all of us to the degrees, right? We all are on a certain level damaged goods. I mean, we're work in progress. Knowing that that part of me is taken care of and trusting that, really, really deeply. But this is a little bit of profound trust, trusting that. And then when you trust that, you can relax and then you can let go of control, right? Allow it to be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Really hit me actually. That softening and allowing yourself to relax. That comes from a deep state of trust.
Yeah.
Which is not easy. There's an edge that you're going up to there. Consistently having to face that edge of like, okay, I'm going to trust this now. I'm going to trust this force, this source that has my back, even if it's going to be painful.
Yeah, and I also think about the conversation with menswork. This is connected to the program, which has been given to men that it says you must be in control of your life, right? You must be in control of your life. You must be. I remember this, through my childhood, also to adolescence. In my first job, you must be in control of this. You must be in control of that. You must control this. It's must and it's control. So that means that when I'm not controlling, I'm not in relationship. So, that it's like very, very uncomfortable. Well, how do I let go when I must be in control, And I think that big piece of that man work, within the deprogramming of ourselves and showing up as that new version of masculinity we really want to see, it's knowing that you don't need to be in control.
Yeah.
You mustn't be in control all the time. You can be sovereign in relationship with yourself. But even with that, you don't need to control yourself. You need to, as you said, we have a deep need to be free. So if you have deep need to be free, why would I control myself because I'm lacking?
Yeah.
Limit my freedom in a way, you see?
Totally.
Yeah.
My shoulders instantly dropped when you gave that little revelation there. We don't have to be in control. It's like, you can just breathe in on the sigh of relief.
And I honestly say to the listeners and to yourself, this chat for me, it was also challenging because I understood how deep that program was and how that program was linked to my self-worth and sensation of being good enough or being enough.
Being enough, yeah.
I'm in control. And whenever I was dropping out of control, I was not good enough or I was enough because now I couldn't control my reality. So therefore, my masculinity was freaking out. Like, I'm not in control, and I need to gain control again. You know what I mean? or my
totally.
family, or my friendships, or my relationships, or my business, or my clients, and so on and so forth. And I
Totally.
think a lot of men, especially in organizations, are struggling with that because they're consistently pushed to do that all the time.
Yeah, I love how you've identified how pernicious that program of control actually is embedded in our conditioning. And it's true, the masculine does desire to be like master of time and space, like organizing, directing things. We want to, it's something that is deeply fulfilling for us. And I guess the shadow side is this you've got to be in control all the time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what happens next?
But I think that masculine energy that wants to, organize and steer and direct and lead, if it's in relationship to the deeper essence, right? And it comes from the space. Well, my favorite coaching question: what wants to happen through you and with you right now, as a human being? What wants to happen? And you ask yourself question today, not what do I want, what must I do, what I'm supposed to do, but what really wants to happen, and trusting that part. Then you really get out of that need to control without being in relationship to the deeper parts of yourself. Yeah.
I love that phrase because that's an invitation to dance with that force that you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
What wants to happen through me and with me. And that's, if we can engage that path, it's magical things generally tend to happen.
Exactly. And I also think that supports men to go into that space of what you said before, the activation of the nervous system in such a positive way, allowing the emotions to show up, and also allowing integrity to shine. Because I think that part of manhood is also important. Are we in integrity right now? Are we fractalized? Or are we spread?
Yeah,
Or are we
totally.
able to contain ourselves within the integrity in our own container with stillness, calmness, and presence?
Absolutely, yeah. A beautiful subject, integrity. My teacher, John Wyman, really opened this field up for me. And he describes it as that there are three types of integrity that are active in a man's world. There is the integrity of his word. Do we say what we're going to do? There is the integrity in his body. How does he hold himself? How calm is he? How responsive is he? How's his health? And then there's the integrity of our heart's or soul's mission. What do we really want to do in this life? And are we doing it? Or at least answering the call in some level? And of course, we're always out of integrity somewhere, like as throughout our lives, there's always somewhere where we're slipping. And so the work is to kind of track it and then take action where we can.
I love it. You brought that one, word, body, and heart and mission. And I think that heart and mission is super important, because when it comes to body, I think that a lot of men are now activated to take care of their own body. They're exercising, moving, even the yoga practices, Pilates, Qigong. We all know how important it is for us to hold that our body strong and powerful. Our word, I would say that more or less we're there, but we're struggling. It's still like I'm showing up and I change my mind, or, something else pop up, I cannot show up. I'm coming and going, right?
Yeah, especially in Ibiza where things change at a rate.
Coming and going. It's the divine masculine, the divine feminine. But I think the important piece here that we can kind of talk a little bit about is this deeper heart mission and purpose. Why is that so important to integrity, and how does that show in your life? So when you got in relationship with your bigger purpose in your own life, how did that show up? How did you get initiated, or how did you get in relationship with that in your own life, Alex?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
So when you got in relationship to your deeper purpose, how did that show up in your life?
It's interesting. I mean, I was a big fan of synchronicity from an early age. What is this magical thing that Carl Jung used to talk about? And so I would heed the signs from the universe. And there was always a desire. For me, mission and is related to desire. There's something in us that wants to come through us. Whether it's a course you want to study, or a country you want to go and live in, or something you want to learn, or a career, whatever it is. As soon as you align yourself with taking action towards that purpose or that discovery, and you commit to it, generally nothing can really stop you, except it's going to be time. It's just action, persistence, and time. And the mission or the desire deepens over time. The more you find yourself turning up for what you really desire, the layers get deeper and deeper and deeper, until you realize you find your Dharma, I think, at some point. You find what you're really here to do. And you know it because it feels so inspiring to you.
And also what I found out, when you're in relationship with this, like you become extremely sexy and attractive. I think the men who are in relationship with their purpose and dharma, and they're consistently showing up for their life, there is some kind of charisma and energy around them that, for example, women can really recognize and see, and that becomes really attractive.
Totally, because they stand for something.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. They stand for something, and that is really magnetic to the feminine energy. So there it is, your dating trip. Or tip.
Yeah. And this is what the world wants more of. The world wants more loving leadership.
Irresistibly attractive to that leadership. And also, even if you're lost, and some people, who are listening to this, might be working for the organization, or they're not in relationship to their purpose, it's never too late. There's always this moment in life when you are choosing to ask yourself that question: why am I here on this planet right now? What is my deepest purpose? What is my meaning? As man, as somebody who's showing up, as somebody who really wants to create benefit, to contribute, to collaborate. What is that for me? So it's a good question to ask.
Yeah, beautifully put. Anyone at any stage, they're at the door. If you knock on the door, it will at some point open, if you really are curious.
So what do we do to help ourselves with this activation of the nervous system? So let's go back into that before we wrap up for today. So if the nervous system is overactivated, and we're reactive, because I think that's an important part, because of this intensity right now, I can see a lot of people are short-tempered, reactive, they contained, and then suddenly they explode, and they contained again, and that shows up in relationships, in families, especially in work as well. I can see this in work situation when people experience this. What is our practice? You mentioned breath work is the one, right?
Yeah, my personal practice has become breath work and qigong, just because of the deep state of intensity and relaxation and centeredness that I get to feel within my body, and I'm not in my thoughts, I'm not in my head. I tend to be able to carry that through the day. And I think, we live in really volatile times. So any practice that you can do in solitude, where you have time to yourself, that involves stimulating your sense of presence, your sense of connecting to your own body and connecting to the ground. The grounding is, again, another very cliched term, but there is so much out there that's able to blow us over. And especially as men, we have to have a really strong connection to that stability and that inner core, and which is all related to the central nervous system. So any way you can regulate yourself, and find stillness somehow.
Yeah, find stillness. Yeah. And, again, through meditation, my practice is meditation, finding stillness in meditation, silence, being able to be in nature. I found out the more I'm in nature, the more still I can become, the more in relationship with myself I can become as well, more grounded. If you're walking barefoot, sometimes when I coach people, even in cities, I tell them, take your shoes off, just connect, walk on the grass and walk in the nature, feel that stillness, because nature is extremely present. It's really, really, really present. It doesn't even think, future, past. It's just present in the moment. In the seed is not thinking about what am I going to do next tomorrow, how I'm going to grow. It just grows. So I think that part of that container building for man is that relationship with nature. We used to hunt, right? We used to be in nature all the time.
Totally. It's just something that's so close to my heart, especially as a projector. My environment is crucial to how I'm feeling. And just to go out into nature with the trees, the earth, feel my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
I also just discovered I'm looking after a cat at the moment. I'm cat sitting. And it just clicked how incredibly powerful cats are to help you regulate your nervous system. Just by watching it lick itself. There. So get a cat. That's my
Get a cat, get a dog, get an animal. Absolutely. So how can people find out about your work now with chatting, and men who are listening, or women who are listening, and they say, oh well, I need to initiate my men into that body of work? Because a lot of steering also comes from women, in men's development. How they can find you? What is the website, and where is the course running, and so on and so forth? Can you share these details with us, please?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I currently have a 3-month men's program called Leadership and Lovership. And that takes men through all the stages necessary to all this new way of being in their nervous system and approach the fundamentals of men's work and sexuality and relating. My new website is live, alexmischka.com. One of the best places to find me is on Instagram, Alex_Mischka. And yeah, that's it really. I'm out
Wonderful.
there. I have a couples program as well. I have breathwork programs and various other programs in the fields of eros and the erotic.
Wonderful. Beautiful, Alex. Thank you so much. Any last words? How would you like to leave audience today?
Just to, firstly, again, thank you. I love talking with you, Zoran. I love your energy and what you've created here on the island, and your leadership skills. I see you as a true leader, so thank you. And just invite everyone to always take a deep breath, and whenever you feel coming undone in the day, find your feet on the floor, breathe deep into your belly, into your core, connect that to your heart before you want to send that text or that or that reaction.
Yeah. Be present. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much for being our showing up consistently for TNM Unplugged. We're really grateful for your energy. And Alex, thank you so much for coming into the show today, and we'll see each other soon. Bye for now.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.